Finally, after crawling for hours through this scorching desert, I found it.
The sands!
Now I just gotta find the arid ones. 1, no. 2, no. 3, no. Oh, this is hopeless. But I can't go back now. What will the car think? Don't look at me like that. Do you know how hard it was to draw you?
Hey, buddy, need any help?
Huh?
Yes! Where are the Arid Sands?
Right over there.
Arid Sands is the city and the sands. Thank you, giant delicious turkey leg. I will never forget your help. Come on, car! We're starting in the city.
Folks, here we go. Despite what the name suggests, Arid Sands is not a dry, barren wasteland. It's an intense, immaculate meld of high-tension street skipping and large-scale desert streaking. And I'm just warning you now, this one might go a little long, because I love this level. Like a lot. It's not good, it's not great, it's GOAT consideration. And for some of you, it takes that spot, and I applaud you, my friend, I do. Ever as a level's high's gone so high that I never even consider the low. It's so confident in itself that it pulls from every aspect of its locale to fill in for the thrills. Markets, plazas, roads, ruins, Arid Sands shoves those first before it whips out a spring or a spike trap. I swear, its biggest crime is being in a game with Jungle Joyride. Same with Skyscraper Scamper. All three of you should be spaced out between years of Sonic, but some goofball stuck you back to back at the end of a single game. And then comes Eggman Land. Talk about a back half, huh? But Arid Sands holds strong in both halves. It honestly should be 2 levels, but Shamar combines both large-scale arid environments into one grand sweeping stage that you can clear in 2.5 minutes. What? That's crazy. That's obnoxious. Seriously, every time I finish this level, I try and track back every set piece I flew by and figure out how they could possibly fit all of that into this. But where is this? Well, Arid Sands blasts off in the busy city of Shamar, which is tied with Spagonia as your biggest vacay destinée. The hub world is crowded, and Pickles even gets his own lab. Amy is there too. Hello. Can't wait for that date later. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Oh god, the world! The clearest inspiration of this stage is the country of Jordan, mainly because of the references to Petra. You see them stamped across the later half of the level, and the environment even seems constructed from this monument. But Arid Sands also spends time in the city too. You sprint, slide, smack, and oh my god, do you lane switch through bustling markets filled with humans. This is probably the most humans you ever get in a level, and they're a real obstacle here. It all works together to make the challenge of Arid Sands feel natural. And that's what I'm gonna highlight today. Many track elements are flattened or hidden in shadow. It puts a high priority on the geometry of Shamar, be it city or stone, to slow you down. You really have to learn this level to get past the pillars or market straights. But once you train for that S rank, the 2.5 minute runtime makes it feel like you put on the performance of a lifetime. This is the movie level to me. The most cinematic. We can really feel the stakes. It starts with you running for your life. The music makes it feel like you're running out of time. And Eggman is running his robots over everything. Everyone is everywhere, and so are you, and it's just... I really like this stage a lot, and I can go on forever. And I will. But right before, let's take a deep breath and talk about the recompile. So I'm still using my Xbox copy for these videos, just because couch play on consoles is one of my favorite parts of making these videos. It makes me feel like a kid again, and keeps me from burning out, honestly. So it's one of the essentials for me. That being said, the recompile that recently released is absolutely the best version of this game. You should absolutely play it. There is no more if only. The time is finally here. Unleashed is on PC. Holy crap. Lois, it truly is a miracle, and so well developed too. Try the levels for yourself and follow along with the video. It'll be a blast. But you probably know all about it, so let's cut the chatter and move on to the stage of Arid Sands. Let's crank Adam back to 0. Okay, I'm gonna go on a lot about this intro, so bear with me. To begin, let's inspect our initial shot. What can we observe? Yet again, not much. Arid Sands handles things similar to Rooftop Run. You start in a cramped, dark alley before shooting off into the city. The buildings close you off from any landscape, and the strong shadows mute a lot of what you see. But there is one key difference. Human beings! You get like a second of them in Spagonia, but Arid Sands has you in the center of a crowd. They are popping off. Fitting, because Shamar revels in being a jam-packed capital. From the hub to the level, we see humans walking the streets, talking together, and quite honestly, getting in our way. The humans are even highlighted after our starting spin spin. When Sonic screams go, we get 3 clear sets of people, all positioned around our center go. But the action doesn't stop there, because Shamar is the fastest level to give you an enemy. Your first robot is served up before you even hit 2 seconds. It sells that Mad Dash vibe of Shamar because you're already under attack. It also immediately forces you to run through objects. Pool Edge and the Scamper do this too, but notice how open the space is. Just fun little physics objects scattered around. And then in Shamar, it's just a confetti of crates unloaded in your face. In most other levels, you can be a kind and cautious hedgehog and avoid the furniture, but Arid Sands makes that a serious challenge. Chaos is not optional. You are in the thick of it. Crowded with people, ambushed by enemies, enveloped by objects. The pandemonium fits right in line with the rapid pace of the music, and hey, let's talk about that now. And this time, I'm not gonna make a meme out of it. As I mentioned in Dragon Road, a lot of Unleashed music tracks will perform along with the player, if you're nailing all your actions. Sonic shouts go on the beat, and boosting right on your first set of rings will keep you in tune with the song. From here, you get that eternal, rapid strumming. It's hectic, strict in the rhythm, and it even sounds sped up. But what's really neato is that the riff holds strong even during your boost. It almost becomes clearer. It's like the hyper-medically concerning heartbeat of this level. Eventually, the riff just repeats indefinitely, and you get this drum beat building. This should hit you as you're dodging the pillars, when shit gets real. It builds until you're in the full-on depths of the song, and the track buzzes with this paranormal dread. Whenever I hear this section, I think of like Pyramid Cave and Death Chamber, something a bit more ominous and otherworldly. And it matches with the track too. It haunts the 2D portions in the ruins. But for me, it always comes back when I hit this rail, and with the return of the groove comes the return of the confidence. He sets Sonic off as the track repeats. So, no surprise, it matches the vibe of the level. And just like our final 3 level songs, it sounds more intense rather than fun, but still very much exciting. Alright, let's close our thesaurus and actually start this level in this first intro segment that I'm gonna call Market Mayhem. Oakley dokley. Focalies? There is a lot of market in Shamar, and we're gonna group a ton of turns together until we go 2D. This is a long set piece, so strap in. Well, it's like 20 seconds, but I'm gonna talk about it, which means strap in. Our start begins with a slight curve to the right, and then a narrow run through these buildings. The road is a straight line, but it's still pretty tough because you got a lot of destructibles clogging up your vision. They all share that brown-beige color of the buildings, so it can feel flat and difficult to navigate. The only things that really stand out are these bright yellow tarps and these red market rugs, which I wonder if they were painted red specifically to juke us out with the dash pads. Wouldn't that be nasty? Speaking of which, that's our goal, and our only track element here. Aiming in can be a challenge, but I believe that's what this guy is for. If you aim towards him, it puts you pretty close to the pad. This shadow kind of bisects the road too. If you follow the light and the rings, you're ready for our drift. But this thing is pretty deceptive. Look how long it gets before the end zone. The turn seems much wider than you think. It stretches until it gets to that sneaky shadow, and then it turns real sharp. They also hide this spot with the market stall tarps. It's a lot of visual trickery that gets me on nearly every run, because I always drift into this wall. So, Arid Sands jumps up the intro difficulty in 2 funny ways. One is that our boundaries are no longer kind and curvy. They are sharp, flat, and will dead stop you if you're not turning correctly. Second is those damn humans. Try and hug the safety wall on our right, and it will direct you right into a small child. But if we drift too early on the left, we might slam into this group with another small child. Oh god, we're running out of bonus missions. And in that way, Straight One sells us the vibe pretty quickly. It's hectic right out the gate, it uses the natural aesthetic to hide the difficulty, and it contains only 1 track element. A rough start. For me, because I suck at drifting. But you don't, because you're sailing right into Straight 2. So around where the shadow breaks, we'll catch 3 dash pads pointing towards 3 enemies, plus the twinkle of a ring trail above. But let's indulge our hedgehog instincts and barrel forward first. The bottom portion of this straight is pretty straightforward. After sprinting past this terrace, you just get a slope down and more robots. The enemies are mainly here for the chaotic ambiance. The last set is even in bowling formation, but if you can catch your turn signal early, you can survive with a drift. The bottom straight isn't very exciting. It's mainly saved by the camera, because the boost will stretch it so far back that the environment will bend to help you feel the speed. It makes that top rail look like a piece of red spaghetti, and I'm getting hungry. So let's get on that thing. Back by our dash pads, we jump over the robots and take that ring trail. Now this section teaches you the momentum of your stomp in 2 quick ways. First is how this ring trail ends. The final ring in the trail does not end on the platform. Your momentum is what carries you over there. And as this happens, the camera repositions to point low, below as you keep flying up. A lot of players will instinctively stomp, thinking they have to save themselves from overshooting. Truth is, though, a non-stomp will save you perfectly fine, which is why I think they put the metal here, to coax us down. Cool! Now for Stomp 2. We get our rail swing, which curves, drops, and ends on an incline, but it is severed and guarded by some egg springs. This is where you really learn the length of your stomp's momentum, as correctly gauging it lands you on that rail. Also, what's up with these egg springs, right? I never hit them. Well, they are one of the rare red things in the environment, which helps us catch the rail. I also realized these egg springs are not centered. They all sit on the right of the arch, and then I saw it. Right, 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 right. The world screaming right. A little hard to catch in 1 second, but it is there for our brain to read before our eyes. Anyways, straight 2 is actually much easier on the bottom path, but it is interesting that the top path does test us with something we're not accustomed to. But beyond the tutorial here, I just love the visuals. It's a roller coaster, no bones about it. Half this level is, but man, you feel it on the rails, and man, are these the best ones. That dip on the first one, and oh my god, that bump on the second. Like Dragon Road, you can feel Sonic's heels digging into that rail as the bump tries to brace for all that speed. Sonic games are a thrill ride, right? And now we're thrilling on to our third straight. A bit of lane switching. We got 2 pairs of dash pads that are gonna lock us into our lanes. If you're taking the rail, you'll be directed into the right lane. But if you're free-forming with the drift, then you might just hit the left. Either way, you're sprinting down a tight, narrow street with a lot of debris. This first arch is your starting point. As you pass this thing, the camera extends back and light finally enters your path. Now this tight street is utilized more for its chaotic vibe than like an actual gameplay piece. It just takes 2 lane switches, so it's not hard to memorize. The real obstacle here is again how faithful it stays to the city. There are no track elements in this straight, only rings, and it's not like you see those coming. This crate pack and the light along with it will urge you left into a wall. It doesn't help that a 10 ring shines right in front of this dark door. Thankfully, this is one of the rare parts of Shamar with angled corners, meaning you will slide off this thing rather than dead stop into it. But I want to touch on one more thing, because we got speed indicators. It's Merlon adjacent, aka you pass by a repeating pattern rapidly to visualize your speed. These arches do it, the walls and fences do it, but the best one is this market stand. If you're boosting, the camera goes clean under it. You can sense the metal bar passing over your head. You get so close, in fact, that you notice the stands are modeled with these little supports in the corners. See that little triangle? Also, there's a guy sitting on this thing. Anyone ever notice that? Whatever. Let's finally goalpost and finish the last section of Market Mayhem with this clean cinematic drift. Well, kinda clean. You might be leaving some blue residue on the fences during run number 1, but there are some novel ways to speed through here. The standard form is just to crash through all the stands. This thing is just one tight U-turn, despite what the weird squiggle tells you. But we got a lot of room. Let's just slide through all this debris, right? No! Because here is something so obvious that I literally did not realize until this video. Don't laugh at me, but you cannot drift through the wooden fences. You cannot run through the wooden fences. Only boost. All this time, I thought I was messing up my timing, but no. These things are invincible, and then I realized they're positioned this way to guide you through the drift. See, look. Fence on left, fence ahead. Those are your boundaries. Slide between them. There's even a clear empty aisle between the stalls that you're supposed to follow to avoid the humans. Alright, 99% of you already knew this, but I bet there's one dude who's spitting out his dinner right now. Bro, crazy, right? Recognizing that made this drift a whole lot easier. The thing is, I never drift through the center, because I always attempt the shortcut instead. If you drift early, before you enter the open area, you can catch these dash pads pointing inwards. Since your drift doesn't smash wood fences, you can use it to guide yourself into the pads. And once you snag these things, the noises that go off, oh man. The speed indicator fits right in line with a multi-whoosh from the floor. You can literally time it with the first pad. You get that last ringing beep as you finish the turn. That's magical. Sound effects in Sonic games, guys, so important. But I want to end on a silly little thing that I also totally skipped. Are you having trouble with that drift? Good news! If you just boost forward, you will be redirected with dash pads. Hey, turns are scary, I get it. And now that we have closed out the market itself, let's take in the whole thing. I think the most effective thing about this intro is how little it relies on track elements for difficulty, and instead uses the claustrophobic nature of the city to make you sweat. Straight 1 only has one dash pad. The drift and these corners are the hard part. Straight 2 is, granted, pretty sonicked up, but it does teach you a move where city geometry is your enemy. Straight 3 has damn near nothing, and that final drift hides most of its dash pads behind objects. The busy citizens are your obstacles here. If there's one thing you experience in Market Mayhem, it's Shamar, and the immediate vibe we get of Shamar is that it's going crazy, that we gotta boost forward, that its layout will choke us, that it spins you 1, 2, 3, 4 times. You lane switch wide, you lane switch tight. You drift short, you drift tall. The city is in your face, and the people are not moving. And you finish all that in under 20 seconds. It's the exact intro you want for the city section of Arid Sands. But this level goes places, doesn't it? So let's get there and enter our next set piece, the long shot launch. Okay, this is a small QTE over a big distance, but they sure do focus on it, and so shall we. An abrupt camera change comes when we hit these dash pads. It instantly goes from 3D to 2D. This is something that could be jarring if we couldn't catch Sonic, but he's always centered in the middle, and his lane is all lit up. Now, we have some fun wish fulfillment, in my opinion. Sonic's sprinting past a crowd that can't even register him. Sonic is trapped in his dimensional plane, with no risk of colliding, so we get to spot these guys without any interruptions. Also, many are walking against Sonic, which makes our speed feel even greater. Now, I'm gonna turn the lights on during Space Mountain and ruin the magic here, so children, look away. But these people are not actually moving. They are walking in place, totally stationary. But why would you ever catch that when you're moving so fast? Ain't that crafty? This is the only time we see humans walking on this set piece, so I believe they want us to catch them. Once we pass this arch, our camera swings and showcases more of the road. We can visualize the depth through these double ring trails, and we see that water extend into the horizon. A brief taste of how far this street goes before we swing back in place for our QTE. Now, I haven't brought this up yet because I was saving it for this exact moment. Unleashed has this fantastic slowdown effect whenever you use a trick jump panel. It eases in until time reduces to a crawl, and then it serves up the buttons. Now, what this ease in does is it helps us catch what's going on all around us. This can be used for directional changes, illustrating depth, highlighting upcoming set pieces, and my absolute favorite, freezing destruction. We see it on that early jump in Dragon Road, and right here in Arid Sands. This is why I enjoy the trick jump QTEs in Unleashed, because I don't think they're there for challenge, I think they're there for cinematics. I'm typically watching the background because the button presses are honestly very easy, unless you're doing the DLC. Anyways, I'm not done yet. Whew, I told you this one was gonna go long, because if we succeed our jump, we get a triumphant camera change. This showcases the long distance we traversed, the wreckage from our jump, and what I think is really funny, the rings from way back finally catching up with us. And when he lands, we hold on Sonic for a while, as he keeps boosting down that path. The QTE failure is also not too bad. It reverts to that 2.5D and requires just one spike jump, before giving us that same camera shot. Okay, just one more thing. Our camera is crooked, which gives the sense that Sonic is traveling from this point during our jump and climbing on his run. If we correct the camera, the shot just comes off a bit flat, but when it's tilted, it gives us that feeling of resistance. Sonic is going fast, despite the metaphorical incline, and that is the impression I get from the long shot launch. A straightforward jump meant to measure the distance Sonic can travel from his speed. Trick jump panels aren't very steep, and yet look at him go. And it still showcases congestion. Humans are still walking and even jumping on those balconies. They want you to watch. But now we will play, as we're about to run into our first chunk of 2D gameplay. Arid Sands has 5 chunks of traversable 2D, and in that lovely Unleashed way, they can be skipped if you know what you're doing. But let's pretend we don't, and fall down first. This is one of my favorite 2D punishment paths because it has a great sense of accidental flow, in that if you're unconsciously boosting forward, the game is going to keep you moving up and out, kinda like Generations. So you're incentivized to blast through this Egg Knight, and you continue it into these Egg Fighters. But when you run into the wall, an Egg Spring will redirect you backwards to start your climb. From here, it's just some homing attacks and a spring pull bounce. What I appreciate about the downstairs here is that they don't punish you for mindlessly boosting for fun. It flows really well without prior knowledge, but it still asks you to participate. Now, I do wonder if this slat to the courtyard used to require a slide. Right now, you can boost under it, but it sure looks like you had to slide before. That could have interrupted flow, and I wonder if the designers realized that and just whoop, you know. Now, if you don't fall down, you must avoid a sneaky egg spring through a delayed homing attack. This is sorta new too. Many are used for redirecting you, not your homing attack. But in Arid Sands, we must be patient, which is a bit of an ask after what we just went through. Otherwise, any other top route is gonna shoot you over the pit and into our upcoming loop. You'll then drop down into this smooth building turn, and mind your speed, because you can actually fly right over the goalpost here. Finally, we wall jump up and fall into the next area, or we can light dash with these rings and fly into it instead. Aren't we cool? If there's one thing to say about this 2D chunk, it's that every route of it feels pretty good. I love the guiding flow from the bottom, which still isn't automatic, as well as how fast you can clear it from the top. And many skip it, but great sense of depth from this waterway background at the bottom, which that's the title card, right? Hiding in the punishment path, how sneaky. And again, I appreciate how ever-present the citizens are. But let's prepare for our next set piece. Get your ass on the floor. It's time for the Shamar Shuffle. Ooh, this part is so cool, if you can get it right. If not, well, you know. If you're dropping from our last 2D, then you'll go 3D pretty quickly. Homing into this guy will get you right into the groove for your triple lane set piece. Also, go get this videotape. Now, if we fly in with our lightspeed trail, Sonic will spring right into the center dash pad. The best part of this little action is Sonic's roll when he meets the ground. He feels so in the zone, and so does the camera, because it locks in within half a second. And now, we ride. So let's chunk it up. First chunk is pretty easy. You got one arch in the center, and behind that, a lone child in the middle lane, waiting to get decimated. You're probably not killing this kid, because the arch is gonna stick you in either the right or left lane. The real clever thing they do is hide the next chunk with these tarps, which means you're planning your pathing from Sonic's POV on the ground. Now, the right lane does start with a crate under the arch, but if we boost through, we'll find a dash jump right after. This will let you clear the next ledge with a whole lot of sauce. The camera zooms in for this jump, so we get a bird's eye view of the next segment, and that lets us plan our attack. Also, the two giant towers on the side, that's a football goal right there. Second chunk is where you might sink out of the shuffle. You get Shamarians in every lane here. It's simple in hindsight, but it looks much busier when we're boosting. Thankfully, again, we got some gentle angles going on with these humans, as they will nudge you into the middle lane for your jump. Third and final chunk. Tricky, because it begs a slide right after your jump over the ledge. You will most likely need to stomp in midair to make it under in time, as the distance is too close to activate it on the ground. But when we do that, we hit the floor with Sonic, and the camera squeezes through that short little tunnel. You can see the roof on top of your screen. You know, you feel it. When we're out, it's countdown to the final arch. You got a poor market stall on the right, and a spike cube on the left. This is a pretty tame ending, as they give you a lot of space before the cube draws near. And it's very rare you're hanging in the left lane anyways, which means you speed past the arch and into a clean turn. But let's go over all that. So this thing is pretty damn tough on a first go. First, the obstacles are not clear. They're diegetic to the environment, besides the cube, and they're not placed in any even pattern. Second, the camera is not helping us. It frequently hides behind Sonic and stretches our view far, far back. Very hard to plan when everything up ahead is so tiny. Third, momentum is a real issue. The dash pads will speed you so fast that jumping can become unwieldy. This makes the ending slide so difficult, because we forget how fast we're traveling forward. And finally, 4, this is all new to the player. Not the mechanics, but the combinations. We never had to tackle so much momentum in a 3-lane before, alongside so many new options. But hold on, before you write your comment, this is not me criticizing. This is me complimenting, because I really enjoy the final effect here. Just like my thesis of Shamar. God, I hope it is pronounced Shamar. It is so effectively organic. The challenge doesn't come from the track elements, it comes from the geometry. From Shamar. Like, what's stopping you besides the cube, the bridges, ledges, arches, and people of the city? And it's aggressively cinematic in the way I love, but also in the way that gives me trouble. One of the hardest 3 lanes in the entire game, camouflaged under the guise of a city street. And it feels phenomenal to master and pull off. Bravo. But let's shuffle on to our next sideways section. 2D chunk number 2. You'll most likely miss your shortcut on the first run and boost down below. You get a spiky wall jump with another egg spring, but if we follow this suspicious ring trail into the crate stack, we'll shoot and soar through a platforming section. It can be a bit staggered, but you can wall jump and boost in some nifty ways to help clear it faster. Now, the real fun shortcut comes right at the start. If you home this series of spinners, you can spring over this entire section and bounce around like a maniac. This shortcut feels especially great to pull off if you refuse to home. The spinners are in the perfect position to just ball up and jump into. So, 2D2 is kind of like a reverse of the first. Starts with a curve and a loop, where the first chunk ends with one, but they still share egg springs performing the exact same trick and tall shortcuts over the punishment paths. However, I lean more towards the first, as I find that bottom flow very satisfying. 2, not so much. Alas, we're finally exiting the city of Shamar, and we literally haven't hit 1 minute yet. Man, what a level, huh? And man, what an exit. Here comes more roller coaster coding, because we curve on that single exit path. And look at the camera. It is swinging along with us. You lean with Sonic. The force of that turn is massive, and we're still swinging as Sonic accelerates through these arches. It's the Merlin moment. If we could hear through Sonic's ears, we'd hear... You You can imagine it. You can feel it. The camera hits the floor, and Sonic officially exits Shamar and enters the second half of the level. And our next set piece, the Sandy Slide Dive. Okay, this is just a turn and a jump, and that's it. But if I talked for an hour about one jump already, this one deserves a mention too. Because after sidestepping and sliding around tight city streets, suddenly we're introduced to the scale of the desert. A single stone line with a flurry of foliage coming at you. And then bang, open sand. The camera doesn't even give you a glimpse beforehand, and you fall into the space, which, hey, helps you feel it. Also, note the difference of this upcoming hard left. Remember how drastic the camera change was on the city dash pads? It switched perspectives in like 2 frames. Now look at this. Same exact move, but it swings into place because it has so much space to move around. And then we got these blurry canyons way back. Immediately, you know you're in a new big environment. You got some enemies to whiz past to sell your speed, and then this beautiful turn. This drift feels damn near perfect because you're sliding to land smack dab in those dash pads. The slide to pad combo here is a hot knife through butter. And the composition, now we're getting up our own ass, but the stone arch opens to let the sunlight hit your objective. Come on. But the absolute best part, folks, the part that made me, the Speedo-holic, jump for joy, is that this is a drift where they want you to boost. Oh, what glorious permission. As long as you start your drift around the rings, you can boost all you want, because your destination is the pads, not the road. They'll set you straight, so slide in however you want. But come on, go fast. Do it. I encourage everyone to try it. A move typically frowned upon in the Unleashed canon is in full effect here. It almost feels easier to do it this way. Anyways, hey, if we're trying to sell space, then I got a great idea. Let's jump over a giant canyon with all our boost. Oh, look at that. We're traversing a vast natural landscape at supersonic speeds, and suddenly we understand the scope and range of our new terrain. This thing reminds me of the roof drop in Spagonia. Just a short little segment that tells us so much. That Adam can make so much bullshit up around. But to get serious, this whole scene effectively communicates the transfer of locales by emphasizing space in 2 major ways: sliding down a wide canyon and diving over one. Your new location is open, and Sonic swiftly takes advantage of that by drifting and flying with no obstructions. After all the hubbub of the city, the track abandons all those fast, claustrophobic inputs and just gives you the freedom to soar. It's a stage transition that I adore. But let's finally see what the desert has to offer in our third 2D chunk that I'm calling the Dry Depths. This is one of those sections where I don't enjoy the punishment, so I really appreciate the shortcut. But before we get deep, let's jump over a pillar. We just sped through 2 little scenes that emphasized space, and this one is no different. We get treated to some 2.5D, and not much else. Again, a lot of room, of course, but there's also no large canyon walls boxing us in, which hints at the upcoming drop. They're caught off guard by the lack of track and that clear cliff edge. Distance blurred, loop stands alone. That drop is palpable. Also, tiny shrub. Shrub, are you indicating the loop? Is that what you're doing? Okay. Clearing the pillar can go one of 2 ways. A slide, which sends a trio of robots to that tiny shrub, and also gives you a bit of pizzazz as you enter the loop. Or a jump, where you can bounce through an enemy and into that odd dash ring. But now, the loop. You know me, you know loops. You know this! Low angle, zoom out, tiny Sonic, 10 out of 10, no notes. Now, onto the 2D. This section sneaks up on you. We're focused on Sonic, and then suddenly we're springing up sideways. So you have to scale up some very wide platforms and take advantage of far homing attacks to escape. Go too slow, and you're waiting for moving slabs and fire spouts. There is a quick exit through this accelerator gun, but you're encouraged to fire forward rather than up. This can run you into an egg spring and the cube. I hate the cube. Some things in Unleashed frustrate me, but nothing like the cube. 2D can already feel slow for players. Being forced to move the cube is such a slap in the face on such a frenetic level. I know, it's a punishment, but Generations has the cube too, and you can boost that thing in seconds. Here we gotta work our triceps and inch this thing along when we just did this like 5 seconds ago. Curse you, cube. Curse you. Okay, so how do we avoid the cube at all costs? Please, someone tell me. Well, firing up from the gun is our first chance. But what if we avoid going down into the depths altogether? It's really hard to catch, because you got gold rings against beige sand, but there is a shortcut here. If you can manage to jump before the second dash pad on our starting loop, you will fly over the depths and dash ring into a rail with a ton of boosters. And be sure to boost yourself, because we got the indomitable wood fence coming up. Pulley up from there, and you can just fling yourself forward to the end. Now that
feels good. Anyways, I don't enjoy my time in the dry depths, and the monkey paw is gonna curl on this one, but it's because it's so open. The movements are fast, that I won't argue with, but the area feels slow because it's just so big. The platforms are wide and dispersed. There is no impression of a quick climb because the route is so staggered. Like, look at our camera on the first spring up. We don't see the right wall, and the enemy on our left is only half in the picture. It immediately feels like a slog, even if it isn't. Compare it to the 2D action in the city, and even later in the desert. That stuff is tight, cramped, and rapid. Like I said, in reality, your hedgehog tricks can clear it fast, but the aesthetic of the depths feels slow, and that's why I avoid it at all costs. It's like the one part of the level where I hit a restart. Even the pillars don't do that to me. I think there's an interesting convo to have about why fast sections in Sonic games can feel slow, but that's for another video. For now, I want out. I want no depths, and I definitely want no cube. I want speed, which is what our last loop is gonna give us, as we trick jump panel over some poor robot and begin the set piece of set pieces in Shamar. Pillar Pass. If the Shamar Shuffle is the part of the city, Pillar Pass is the part of the desert. Failing this one can feel very bad, but mastering it will make you feel like the fastest thing alive. So let's get into it. Once we finish our loop, we're flung into a, oh my god, wow, reward point! We're flung into a long turn and we start the pass. Why does that fling feel so fantastic? Sonic goes really far, right? Sonic also drops very low. Slow it down and we see he falls down not one, but two cliffs before shoes hit sand. And look how the rock wall approaches quick and then opens wide. A tight canyon? Nay, a wide open space. And then we see it all. Just a ton of lines pointing up, a dark circle signaling our destination, and the unluckiest robots in the world. The enemies again provide a bit of fireworks as the boost pulls the camera back. Great tilt on this wide turn, but also, the camera ain't doing that. The track is. There's a little hill that's responsible for this motion. Thanks, dude. Alright, wave goodbye to the hill and say hello to the pillars. Once we pass the guts of the robots, we're introduced to the full sight of this thing. So, third grade art students sound off, because we're hit with some 1-point perspective. Horizon line, vanishing point, orthogonals? Time to draw our little buildings. The perspective effectively outlines the length and size of our set piece. It also assists with the gameplay as well. They keep the floor barren so our eyes stay up here. And our first pillar crosses the most skyline, which makes it the easiest to catch. Alright, class is over. Whoa, class is in session. Look at these guys, standing around like they own the place. Slap them around, however, and we got trouble. The right path is covered in bricks, so we only got our left 2 lanes. However, if we aim into this Joker, his body is gonna keep covering the horizon. Now we still don't know where we're going. And this guy is falling on top of us. The next pillar is already tilting, so we're getting nervous. Our robot's body hides an upcoming barrier that we are sprinting straight into, but now we see 2 openings. Weird brown fence, and the second unluckiest robot in the world. And this is the hard part. You gotta lane switch after you pass the pillar. Every time I do it before, or even during, I get pancaked. I thought it was unfair until I noticed this. Every pillar has this protrusion that lines up with a lane. They could have made it a bit pointier, but you should treat it as a spike regardless, because I believe that's what nabs you here. So watch your head. Our third pillar is not too hard, even if we took the fence path. And now we're on to the second chunk. If chunk 1 was right, right, left, chunk 2 is left, left, right, spaced out in a similar timing. I do appreciate the background breather they give us. The moments before were so chaotic and hectic, and then you cross that arch and you're back into some clean open air for like 5 milliseconds. So our first pillar shouldn't give us too much trouble. And again, we got debris cluttering our right side. But what's this? A sleeping pillar, taking a nap, and more wood fence. Yeah, so 2 routes. Previously, you dealt with pillars in the middle of some obstacles. Now you must face them after some obstacles. But these are less chaotic and much more fun. Our left path will let us slide under the snoozer. It's such a simple action, but when wedged in the middle of this hectic set piece, it feels so damn cool. You can boost before this second pillar, but I've never been able to pass the third, which means you gotta jump to finish the flourish. But screw jumping, I want to let the game do that for me. Good news, because our wood fence on the right path hides a dash jump. And look at that spin. Right in front of the pillar's family. What's wrong with you? The crate pieces follow you through and you near miss that second pillar collapse. Or you don't. It's legitimately nabbed me a couple times. Our last pillar plummets, but the pass continues. So the green palm tree here marks this final section, and we start seeing some falling rocks in the distance. And robots. In such a high-stakes set piece, Unleashed still has that playful tone. You gotta love the robots, and you gotta hate wood fences, as it covers your sight when entering the pass. You really only catch this upcoming obstacle through the slats in the fence, and even when it falls, it's still kicking up dust to further obscure your path. A second stone will do this too, until you're finally in an open clearing with
an open view. No more right wall. But don't stare at that pretty. We still got egg fighters standing around. This last little moment is pretty simple. Just one rock in the center lane. But if we hug the left, we get this final near miss element where Sonic can sidestep right before he hits a wall. It's threading the needle. As we sprint down the side of the cliff, however, the camera swings wide into the second dimension, and we finish Pillar Pass. A phenomenal cinematic achievement of Unleashed, dare I say, of the entire franchise. This is a set piece so strict in being itself that you fully immerse yourself into being Sonic. Why? Because when you look at this whole thing, where are the track elements? Where are the bright red warnings on the pillars? Where is my tall camera? Where am I going? Buddy, that's on you. It puts the onus on the player to figure out how they can surpass these tight timing windows. And what's great is there's probably multiple ways around this thing. I'm sure someone's figured out how to switch before this pillar or slide under the final collapse. You plan out the best track that you can handle, and I love that. I can even hear out critiques of this section too. It can be very deflating when slipping up on that first pillar, because the rest of the set piece goes on without you. You gotta climb over all that cool you missed out on and keep going. Plus, this one comes pretty late in the level too, so it's not like you can just restart and try it again. But I believe that adds to the tension and the nail-biting fear that comes with every input. It even has an ominous build-up. You get that long, quiet turn right when the music track starts shifting in tone, and you're like, oh, here we go. I honestly think it's one of the hardest chunks of Unleashed to learn, and it still gets me today. But it's also the one chunk of Unleashed I wanted to learn the most, because I imagine it would look so cool to pull off. And it does. It feels so rewarding when you finish up with no scrapes. And then you realize that you have more action to sprint past. That final canyon collapse really seals the deal for me. It's not just the monuments falling down, it's the whole landscape. I can't believe these come one after each other. It's incredible. But I've yapped long enough. Pillar Pass is an exceptionally difficult set piece that asks you to craft your own solutions. It hammers home the organic difficulty of Shamar by providing no indicators, and it doesn't even come at the end of the level, which means we got a lot more to go through. On to 2D chunk number 4. Alright, our fourth 2D chunk, and what a start, huh? 2 back-to-back loops, each showcasing how Unleashed has fun with the camera. On your first time through, you have no clue that this is even approaching because the view is so flat. You're speeding up a sandy road that soon melds into a stone loop. Halfway up, we zoom out, which gives us the loop size, but our second one zooms way in, so we feel Sonic pass over our head. You ever notice how many loops are on this damn level? And we haven't even seen them all yet. Anywho, an egg spring can push you back if you home too quick here, but you can also just jam the thumbstick right and you will sail right through the egg fighter standing guard. Not a second wasted. Bouncing up gives us the real challenge of this chunk. You basically gotta wait out a platform and jump into some dash rings. With proper timing, you can get this on a good rotation and have everything lined up for you. But one mistake from way back when can have you standing still. And that feels pretty awful after just getting through this. Now, there actually is a bit of a shortcut here that I stole from Big Blue, obviously. But if you do some tricky boost jumps, you can climb up from the bottom. However, since Arid Sands is such a full combo kind of level, taking a risk this late can be pretty scary. So I mostly stick to the crate. Plus, I can't pull it off. I suppose you can chalk this section up to another breather, but Arid Sands is so effective of doing that in motion, it's the waiting that really gets me here. When I think of things I would change in Unleashed, it's always this part. Some sort of shortcut on the top left really could have solved all this. But I'm just a YouTube man, not a Sonic team. So let's get our ass through those dash rings and continue the fun. A static shot turns into a tracking shot as Sonic sprungs his last spring. We follow him from below as he falls into another massive area that I'm gonna call Vagabond Valley. I was gonna call this Rail Canyon, I want you to know that, okay? But that's too easy, we're better than that. With names like the Barrel Run, you can't go wrong! Okay, talk about a tiny Sonic. The camera doesn't even catch up to him when he lands, only when he makes his first descent. Plus his landing rail is surrounded by this distant monument in the background, which helps it stand out, rather than cutting it between brown and blue. But let's grind, because our camera is about to have a ton of fun, and so are we, I promise. Notice how the camera is not centered ahead, it's tracking this spring in the distance to show us a shortcut. But even just that helps paint the grandiose valley. When we lose the spring, the camera switches to track Sonic on 2 more loops, and then it's homing time. And you see no floor. The place is deep and deadly. One jump on the Ritz Cracker, and we can light dash over to our bottom rail. And it's a rail in Shamar, so you know it's a blast. But check this shit out. The camera orbits Sonic to show off how large of a space you just flew through by using these 3 pillars. It helps measure the distance. But also, you only see it through this little crack in the valley. Amazing crack. 10 out of 10 crack. Even in the biggest arenas, we're still getting narrow. Plus,
Look at this shot. Look at this painting. All the rails warping and curving out of the crack. Whenever you put Sonic on a rail, you got me. They should have a whole canyon of rails and call it Vagabond Valley. Anyways, how about that spinner shortcut from earlier? Well, that will bring you to a blue spring. And now, with that big old view, we get to take the top rail. If the bottom one showed us the area we left, the top one shows us the area we're going to. It points ahead and cares more about tilting to give you the rail surf vibe. That's radical. Okay, Vagabond Valley does something really unique here, and I wonder if you caught it. It zooms in super tight whenever Sonic is about to flip to a new angle. What this does is it hides the scale of the area before we see it from a new perspective. I also believe this is intended to make the path feel a bit fresh, because it really is just a giant canyon, but also it hides the other route. It's really hard to track how you get to the other rail when you're already busy with yours. It's a weird mix of grand sweeping landscape and Quill POV that I at least wanted to mention. Vagabond Valley doesn't ask much in terms of a rail section, and is again a large-scale area used for spectacle rather than challenge. But it's getting just as sick and nasty with the camera angles, and for that, it's a fun little pause in our journey before we hit our final 2D chunk, the right angle ruins. It's because it's a big right angle, get it? Whatever. 2D number 5 has some absolute dungeons in its punishment paths, but if you know what you're doing, you can clear it all in 10 seconds. God, I love this game. Anyways, our first angle of the RAR has 2 approaches. Take the bottom and you're forced to traverse a lot of sharp corners, and the camera shows us nothing. This is one of the closest 2D zooms on the whole disc. You guys got the disc for the recompile? Surely you did. Continuing on at the bottom is a bit of a trek because there's a lot of obstacles. Now, you can skip to the top with some wall jumps when you start this section. This will set you where Vagabond's top rail ends. See that dash ring? That's where we shoot out of from the blue spring approach. Here, we just do 2 homes and we can stomp the crates. As always, the shortcut carries this first angle, but our bottom path is a lengthy delve into a lot of hazards. And I wonder, who is even coaxed down here? Maybe if you catch the one up, but I feel like players are wary of drops at this point, which makes you forgo even the one at the slab, and that drops you into the section too. Plus, the single floating ring looks so out of place at the top, I feel like most players are gonna chase it with a wall jump first. Still, its cramped space makes it feel short, even if it's got a lot of inputs. A nice juxtaposition with the dry depths. But enough yapping, let's zoom out and bend into angle 2. Another striking shot, tracking Sonic from way back. All these bits in the foreground flying past. I can't believe I'm steering that little guy, and neither can he, because I'm gonna purposely miss the dash ring and take the bottom path of angle 2 first. Just stay with me here. After a bit of redirection, you enter a platforming section with a whole lot of spikes. These rising pillars can feel a bit wonky, as they want you to use the momentum of the raise to jump to the next pillar. But the camera is so tight that you lose your landing spot when you're mid-jump. You have to rely on the rings to position yourself, and even that is difficult, especially if you trap yourself with some bad timing. Survive the pillars, however, and we finish the right angle ruins. But if angle 1 had 2 routes, then angle 2 does 2. We're almost done, I promise. Nail that circle, and suddenly we're soaring. Camera moves ahead, tracks that tiny Sonic. It's glorious. And then you fall right down to the bottom. So, spoiler alert, but the move here is to actually boost at the top of your arc. This will force you onto a roof that takes you right out of the ruins. That's a lot of time saved. And I don't know how you would figure this one out yourself. I used the power of the internet for myself, so maybe I missed something here. I even checked to see if this was a Pickles hint, but no. Maybe someone in the town tells you, or maybe you're just supposed to feel the rhythm of the track and boost for old luck's sake. IDK. But boy am I glad it's there. Boy am I glad every shortcut is there, because the right angle ruins can feel like a slog if you're taking the bottom path. This is your 5th 2D section in Arid Sands, and at this point, you're really starting to feel it, especially at those spikes. But it's all saved through the resourcefulness of those shortcuts. This thing should take like 40 seconds of getting stabbed and shot, but with the right inputs, a 10-second clear makes it feel just like the rest of the speedy track, and to me, that's essential. To be honest, I do feel like I'm being a little bitter on all the 2D when I keep praising the rest of the level, but I'll try to conclude with this. I think the actions in all of these sections are serviceable. I just don't get a lot of fun out of them. I wonder sometimes if I've walked myself into a corner with the term punishment path, because I don't think the bottom route should feel bad. They should always strive to feel like an alternate approach, an apparent miss, but still a fun route regardless. This is why I praise Generation's use of this technique. While the difficulty is reduced, the fun never stops, and we see it in Unleashed 2. I think some great examples are the tree in Savannah Citadel, Dragon Road's first 2D section, and the docks in Jungle Joyride. It's the slower path, but it's still a hell of a time. However, in Arid Sands, I feel like they tend to favor scaling and problem solving, and that can suck me out of the moment. So I don't think this is a failure of design, it just harshes my supersonic vibe. And if it gels with yours, then I'm glad this fantastic level can give a little bit of love to everyone. And hey, it keeps going! Oh god, on to the next section. A small one, but it's got a big impact. Yeah, you get it. The column collapse. This will be quick, super quick, I promise. The column collapse is essentially one chunk of pillar death, rather than the two from earlier. But it's probably the hardest, because it asks you to short hop or else. Our 2D camera for once does not turn, it just follows Sonic forward, which lets you see his feet turning into it. And boy, is he moving fast. And we gotta, because these columns are already collapsing. This first pack falls together, and they use it much more for spectacle rather than challenge, because only the last one will give you any trouble. If you step right and dodge the statue, a dash pad will carry you past the destruction, but one pillar is already dead and buried. We gotta jump it, and it's gotta be tiny. A long hold here will slow you too much, and you'll eat the next stone. The tiny hops can be tough for me to pull off, so this section is a coin toss. Once we make it through the arch, however, we have one last pillar hiding behind one last hole. If you can direct him well, Sonic will fire right through this thing, and you'll get a 1-up for your efforts. Just, watch out. Otherwise, holding strong on the left clears it too. See, that was quick. Not a bad return for the pillars. I think it's just as tricky as its counterpart, and it offers up a different type of aesthetic. Pillar Pass makes it feel like you're traveling through the roadway of an ancient town, with all these stone buildings surrounding your path. But the column collapse feels more ceremonious. The pillars feel less like structures and more like monuments. And after traveling through a deeper part of the ruins, it seems like we're heading towards something important, which begs all this embellishment. Tie it together with that strange statue in the center, and it's starting to feel sacred. And wouldn't you know it, it echoes the movements from my other favorite scene, the Shamar Shuffle. If we combine our column set pieces, then they really resemble each other. Both are lane switch trials, both have mandatory slides and jumps, there is a dash jump shortcut, and one set of spikes, and both end with a 1-up. And yet, they capture two different vibes which still match in intensity. One is a cramped sprint through a busy city street, and the other is this wide spectacle of destruction on a desert runway. This level really is like two great stages smushed into one. But we gotta keep going. Onto my 157th favorite part of this level, the Cliff Course Couplet. So guys, you're not gonna believe this, but I love this part. Pillar Pass and the Shamar Shuffle are standouts in Arid Sands, but this is specifically an image that I think about always. Up there with the Speed Highway loop as one of my favorite Sonic shots. This part doesn't feel like a video game, it feels like a movie. If you took away the HUD elements, I could see this as a tech demo. Imagine if we made a Sonic game that looked like this. Sonic running around a photorealistic world. And then they did. Anyways, the love comes from that classic Arid Sands trick, making a scene feel natural in the environment while still giving us some challenge. If we slow down before we spring on, we can see how much space this damn thing takes up. It looks enormous. Such a grand piece of track for a single wall run. The track elements look so tiny on this massive cliff. Sonic looks so tiny on this cliff. Our spring up is marked with this green tree, which also cleverly hides the rings on the trail. Again, working to feel natural. Now, I will admit, the shadow does kind of wash away the allure of my wall pitch from earlier. It looks very drab up close, and the difficulty is not hard. But let me show you that dang camera. First off, the wall fills up a majority of the screen on approach. It shoves Sonic to the bottom and makes us look up at it. Then when he's on the wall, it gets so goddamn tight. It only does this when he passes by the rocky outcrops. You see it a lot on the next wall too. Plus, we do get a tiny bit of payoff to that drab shadow, technically, because the blinding light from this opening brings our eyes over to the next section. In fact, the lit up portion of the track is the only chunk you see next to the spring. It doesn't let you catch the next shadow until you're on it. Now the light is working against you because it's basically masking the gold rings, and it makes the next rocky outcrop hard to spot. And this lane switch up in general can be tough. Not only do you gotta go down, you gotta quickly go back up to spring out. But all in all, these moves are very easy, right? What could cause anyone to slip up on this thing? I studied this damn scene, searching for anything, and then I realized it's not the track, it's the camera. It's not the zooms, it's the shakes. The wall is bumpy, and it jostles our screen around. Like, look at Missouri and EC. Flat, constant, centered. And then Shamar. It's like vibrating. Combine it with the bright lighting and it makes the track very hard to read. Also, the track is curved. No duh, but it's the only main day stage wall run that is curved. All of these things combined create a new type of challenge for us, but it also sells the scene and answers my love for the shot, because not only are we seeing what Sonic's seen, we're feeling it too. He's running across uneven ground. This is probably how he experiences it. It's not a structure or building, so it sells the organic feel of the environment. And yet again, it reduces track elements to just rings and bounce pads. I really like it. Alright, we gotta stop me from going on about a wall again. Let's touch sand and blast off into the ending run. This should honestly be a set piece. Hey, fuck it, let's call it one. The Arid Slam, because our impact is strong and the ignition blows me away. If you weren't holding on to dear life before, you definitely are now. Once we hit boost, Sonic gets tiny in the center of our screen, and he just plows through enemies and fences as rocks shake and shatter around us. Also, cubes! Why are you here? Just to taunt me? Be gone, squares. Anyways, these robots won't do much, and the rocks are not gonna hurt you if you just boost forward. But the act of swinging around this canyon is such a joy, because Sonic remains pretty rigid in his turns while we jump from either side of him. This is fast, this is fun, this is pod racing. You know I had to do it. Wizard, whatever, I'm old. Another thing that aids in this speed is how narrow the walls are. They squeeze you into this path, and a lot cut off your vision, or cast shadows on your route. The final tunnel especially, that thing is pitch black and you have no idea where you're going. But if you nabbed that dash pad before it, then you are blasting straight through. The walls will split open and reveal a massive ruin, our friendly pillars, and a large space, which houses our goal ring. We boost with all our might, kick up the dust of the desert, and complete Arid Sands. Ow. Alright, I'm starting to expire. How does Arid Sands make you feel? For me, I'm gonna go flat out and say it, I feel like I'm in a movie. Unleashed places cinematics at its forefront. The miraculous part is that they let you game through it, and that it works, but it's always going out of its way to lay on that visual flair. Typically, this leads to a decrease in difficulty because they want you to watch the pretty, but Arid Sands flips that on its head. It's such an organic looking level. I'm constantly surprised how much they hide the Sonic in this one. They hide the trick jump panels, you rarely see your super circles, and even the damn rings melt away in that beige color palette. The only Sonic thing is Sonic, and I feel so much more like him because of that. That in turn increases the difficulty, but they don't stop there, because the track is difficult regardless. I think if we pulled back the camera on these straights, people would still struggle, because Arid Sands throws out a lot of new combinations of mechanics. Stomping with momentum, lane switching while jumping, egg springs with a bit of patience. We know how to do these things, we've just never had to do them together, and so damn fast too. Plus, it doesn't stick to one environment. Arid Sands is the city and the sands. Not only does it appropriately convey the cramped feeling of our hub world, it also expands on the setting in the entrance stage. You always get little hints in these things, but nothing prepared me for how massive things were gonna get out there. And let's acknowledge my issues, because I did whine about them early. I do think the second dimensional segments, while functional, can become more frustrating and time-consuming as the stage progresses. I understand that it is a punishment path, but I think the slowdown is very obvious and deflating when contrasted with the rapid pace of the level. But the shortcuts over these sections are incredible because they fit so well with the rapid pace of the level. For me, they are not shortcuts, they are the main path. And I've never been so convinced by a level that I couldn't have it any other way. But to inject the atom into this conversation, the reason I enjoy Arid Sands is through the joy of getting it right. Not counting the Palace of Evil, this is the hardest Unleashed stage to me. I think the timing here is extremely tight, and the set pieces are rigorously punishing. So much so that I can't just screw one up and move on. It just feels wrong. It begs the most attention because the set pieces feel so impossible. The pillars should not work like that, except they do, and I gotta figure it out. And when I do, I see things I haven't ever seen in a Sonic game. Ruthless spectacle, so native to the environment, with no colorful interruptions. Just the place, the moment, and Sonic. I see a movie, and it's incredible. That's why I have to get it right. I don't think I've ever been stricter on myself in any other level. If I don't get below 3, I'm not leaving. This movie goes one way, and I want to see it happen. I'm not even good at this level. I have to warn myself not to start it sometimes because I know I'll be stuck there forever. That's what pulls me to Shamar. The full combo. 101%. Arid Sands, S rank required. And for once, I'm not gonna end on a joke and instead turn things over to you. What do you think of Arid Sands? Are you as big of a fan as me? Is it the best of Unleashed? Or does it have problems? Can this thing be a little unfair on a first run? And that's a great question. How did you fare on your first run? Be honest. Some of you probably just tried this level recently with a recompile. I'd love to hear your impressions either way. It was one of those levels where after I finished it, I was like, whoa, I gotta see how this thing looks when I get it right. Anyways, it was really nice to get back to a hefty level again, and legit one of my favorites too. I only played this one last year, and it was instantly a top 10 contender. Apologies again if this one went a bit longer, but whenever we go over one of my favorites, I have to analyze every inch of it. Jungle Joyride will be feature length, no doubt. But that's Unleashed for ya, and we're closing in on the end there, aren't we? Only 3 levels left, oh man. But we're gonna steer off course for the next vid and get a bit weird. Nothing too crazy, but I need to prepare for the next generation's comparison, and something's gonna have to come out ahead of that. It's nothing unrecognizable, but I suppose it's uncharted territory for this channel.
channel. Kinda. Trust me, I'm hyping it up way too much. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking, subscribing, and or hitting that bell for the notifications. We recently hit 30k subs! Wahoo! I was at 17 before, admittedly, so I don't want to pretend I shot up so quickly. But 30 is a big milestone that you all helped me achieve, so I thank you kindly. I'm trying to get better on my output with these things. April was kinda quiet, but I got big plans for the rest of the year, so please do subscribe and stick around to see what we go over. As for now, I'm gonna get a head start on this next comparison by making this strange vid. Alright, thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you later. Peace!